Hello everyone, this is Karen from Sew and Save, and I'm here in my sewing studio at the Ponderosa because we are going to do the last block number 12 of our Catapult block of the month. We've been working on this in conjunction with our Sew What Club that meets the second Wednesday of every month at Sew and Save. And we have had a great year. The blocks are looking fabulous, and I'm really excited to see what quilts you make with these blocks. We have lots and lots of different variations. Every quilt is going to look different and beautiful, and I'm really excited, and I hope you are too. So let's get to work on block number 12. So if you've been following along or you just tuned in order to do these, you need the Catapult block of the month folder with all of the instructions. You need the Cat's Cradle tool. And every month we did a video on how to do these blocks, and they are on our YouTube channel. So all you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel to get all of the instructions for each and every block. The instruction booklet also gives you different variations on how to put these blocks together to make quilts. So we are all set and ready to go once we finish this block number 12 to make some beautiful quilts. So this is the block number 12 that we're going to be making this month. We have two different colored Cat's Cradle blocks in opposing corners. We have a 4-patch in the center, and then we have these little rectangles with cut off corners. And by putting it all together, you end up with a gold stripe and a red stripe going right through the centers of your block. It's really cool how it looks when you get everything all put together, and it was a fun block to do. So let me tell you what you need this month to create this block. You're going to need 2 squares of the gold and then 2 smaller squares of the gold. The small squares of the gold will go into your 4-patch. The larger squares will go into your Cat's Cradle block. Next, you'll have the red, and you're going to do exactly the same thing with the red. You're going to have 2 small squares and 2 large squares. These 4 squares, 2 of each gold and red, will be put together to make your 4-patch in the center. The red and gold will go into your Cat's Cradle block. Then, looking at the background, you're going to need 8 background squares, and those are going to be used with these brown rectangles to make these blocks that are on either side. So you'll use 2, 4, 6, 8. Then you'll have 4 rectangles that are actually going to go together. This is going to be your 4-patch. These are going to be together in your Cat's Cradle blocks in the gold and the red. Then you will have 2 large blue rectangles. And as you can see, those are going to be part of your Cat's Cradle block. So the Cat's Cradle block will have 2 colors, gold and blue, or red and blue. And then, of course, you're going to have your rectangles, 8 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, to go along with your 8 squares to make the center side blocks. So get everything cut out for your last block. Congratulations, you've made it. You're here, and pretty soon you're going to be sewing this quilt together. It's going to be so much fun. So get everything cut out. We're going to start by making first the 4-patch in the center. Then we're going to make our Cat's Cradle blocks, and then we're going to do the rectangles that go on either side. So get everything cut out, and I'll meet you back here in a minute. Do you have everything cut out for block number 12? This is our last block, but we have 3 different steps that we're going to do in making this block. The first step is to make the 4-patch. So you're going to start out with 2 red blocks and 2 gold blocks, sew them together, and then sew those 2 rows together to make your little 4-patch. I pressed my seams open and just lined those up really nice, and this is nice and flat and it looks beautiful. Sew those together, and then we're going to work on our cat's cradle blocks. Okay, now that you have your 4-patch finished, we're going to work on our cat's cradle blocks. That's what's next. So we're going to make 1 set of red and background and 1 set of golden background. So I have my red squares and my background rectangles, and I'm going to match those up and sew right along this edge at 1/4 inch. I'm going to do the same thing with the gold. I'm making both sets at the same time. I think we've made enough of these that we can do this all at once. So go and sew these at 1/4 inch and this at 1/4 inch. Then you're going to take these and press them away from the square toward the background, just like I did here. Right? Everything's pressed away from your colored square. Now, take these 2 pieces, line them up, colored squares on opposing corners or ends. There we go. Sew this at 1/4 inch and make your little trim mark right in the center. And then again, press away from the colored squares toward your background square. I have the first part of my cat's cradle blocks done. I have a gold with the background and a red with the background. When I flip this over, all my seams are pressed away from the colored square toward the background square. Or they're actually rectangles. So press it towards your background. All right, now we're going to add the colored block, the navy blue, mine is navy blue, onto the cat's cradle blocks that we started. Now it's time to draw our lines. Remember that you're going to line up your placement line and your dotted line onto the block that you just sewed. So this placement line goes on the stitched line of your little square, and the dotted line goes along the edge of your fabric block. Draw each line. This time we're going to sew right on the line. Flip this over, do the same thing over here. Placement line on the seam line of the square, dotted line along the edge of your fabric block. We're going to do this here and over on the other side. Repeat that again, and we're going to go and sew those, and then we're going to come back and trim them down before we press them. So we're going to trim them down double. I can't fit that in there. I'm going to move this over and draw my line. So stitch right on the line that you sewed. We'll come back and trim these down, and you'll have your cat's cradle blocks all finished. We have our cat's cradle block stitched, and now we're ready to trim. So we're going to lay the 1/4 inch seam from our cat's cradle ruler right on the line that we sewed, and we're going to trim each one of these right down to size. I'm going to flip these around and trim off the excess on these, and then we're ready to square them up. Alrighty, these are the last cat's cradle blocks you're going to make for your quilt. Oh my goodness, there we go. Doesn't want to cut on that little thick part of our seam there. All right, I'm going to push a little harder. There we go, perfect. Alrighty, now we're going to flip our blocks over so they look like little mountains in front of us. And as it indicates in the instructions, we are going to cut this on the 4 on both of them. So we're going to use the 4 on our trims line, and our dotted line is going to go along the seam line going across the bottom. The 4 is going to go along that little seam line on your square. You can get that just right there. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to trim both sides. Then we'll just pick up our ruler, move it over, do the next one. Cut all 4 of these, and then press them open, and I would press my seam toward the dark side. Oh, always go to the dark side with these. There we go. And we'll have, once we do that, we will have the second step of our block done. It's going fast, isn't it? Are you excited to start sewing your blocks all together? I know I am. I can't wait to make this into a quilt. It's been feels like a long year that we've been working on this. I can't believe we're all done. It's amazing. All righty, here we go. I'm gonna go press these open, and then I'll show you the last step of our block, and we'll put everything together. So you have your first step done. You have your second step done, which are your cat's cradle blocks. And now we're going to make your last part of the block, which are these rectangles with kind of a snowballed corner on them. So what I'm going to do is I lined up all of my brown rectangles. I added to the top of each one of them a background square, and then I drew lines diagonally through my background square so that they come down in a V, as you can see. So we're going to have a right and a left, right and left, right, left, right, left. So you can see that you have them going correctly because they're kind of coming down in a V toward you. You're going to go over to your sewing machine and sew on the line, trim off 1/4 inch, and then press it. Now what you could do is you can press like all the right sides toward your background and all the left sides toward the brown. I pressed mine open flat so that when I sew them together, I'm going to have a nice flat seam here. However, it is easier to get them to line up if one side is pressed up and the other side is pressed down. Then these seams right here will nest inside of one another. So if you have one pressed up toward the background and one pressed down toward the brown, these seams right here will nest, and that will make it easier for you to line them up. So that isn't completely up to you whether you want to press them flat or to one direction. Go and make that stitching, and then we're going to sew these together. I have all my little blocks all sewn together. My V's are beautiful. I have beautiful points down here. I laid my out flat. Feel how thin that is right there. It's not, doesn't have a thick seam there at all, and it looks beautiful. Now we can line up our blocks and sew it all together. So these are going to go on the top and the sides and the bottom. I think this all fits in here once I get going. And then let's put in our 4-patch. That goes in the center, and these guys are going to go on either side. So cool. And then the gold and blue will go here, so you can kind of see how this is kind of having a diagonal of gold going through your block. And then over here, look how cool this is. Now you're going to have red going through as a diagonal through your block. Isn't that cool? I love this. Okay, so now we're going to, I know our last block is so awesome. We're going to sew across, sew these 3 together, sew these 3 together. Then I think I'll probably press maybe toward the inside, outside, and then inside on these. And then these I usually press open as I go along. Can't wait to see how this is going to look. Sew yours together and come back and we'll take a look at the finished block. Well, congratulations, you've finished your last block, and isn't it a beautiful one? This is a great block to end the year with, and I am so excited to see what your quilts are going to look like as you sew them together, because each and every one is going to look different and beautiful. I love the way the gold and the red make kind of an X going through the block with your cat's cradle blocks in the corner. It's such a great block, and I want to thank you for being a part of our So What Club every month and for working on these blocks so hard every month, and I can't wait to show you what we're going to do next. So get this done, finish up your quilts, bring them in because we want to take pictures and we want to see how your blocks and quilts came out, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much.